Lesson 22. Extraordinary changes which are taking place in all walks of modern life, but particularly in business and in trade, reflect a growing appreciation of the value of personality. Merchants are no longer content merely to have goods for sale, the goods must sell themselves. For instance, there is a vast difference between a stock of fruit dumped in a slovenly heap and the same fruits attractively arranged to display their qualities to the best advantage. The alert tradesman perceives that he cannot simply keep articles to sell to those who need them, he must dress out and exhibit the intrinsic virtues of his wares, creating the demand for which he cannot afford to wait. In other words, he must make his goods cooperate with him in their sale by investing them with a pleasing personality. What is true of the goods is exactly true of the individual behind them. Your personality is the manner in which you present to other people the array of intrinsic qualities comprising your individuality. A deft and well-ordered display of the positive endowments within you constitutes an attractive personality. An inappropriate display or careless neglect of them results in a disagreeable or weak one. In the former instance, you capitalize the difference in which resides your genuine value. In the latter, you simply let that value lie unused, of no profit either to you or to anyone else. Obviously, therefore, if you want to realize practically on your own peculiar inner talents, or individuality, you must provide them with an adequate personality through which to emerge into expression. Very often people with a less striking individuality than others derive a far greater actual value out of it by taking full advantage of what it offers, equipping it with a personality through which that value can break forth into evidence. Many potentially strong individuals, on the contrary, whose inner treasures of individuality are far more rich, allow that waiting wealth to remain uselessly buried beneath a shabby personality, simply because they do not appreciate the need of exploiting deliberately what they have. They look on personality as a mere byproduct, desirable but not worth wasting conscious thought or effort on, which will ooze out of them as naturally as perspiration. This is a great mistake. Personality is an effect of which individuality is the inner basic cause. Between the two is the channel of physical, mental, and emotional machinery comprising the human being. If the channel is free and open, permitting the law of cause and effect to function unimpeded through it, the personality projected into expression will correspond to the individuality behind it. But if the channel is choked by ignorance, indifference, sloth, etc., the activity of the law is so blocked that only a distorted and feeble personality glimmers into evidence. The effect, in other words, does not translate into equivalent expression the cause from which it sprang. Yet personality borrows its value solely from the accuracy with which it manifests the distinctive qualities of your real self. The more your individuality is warped and shriveled from its original lines and transmission through your human machinery, the less it is worth in its exteriorized aspect as personality. That is why the majority of people are born, live, and die in obscurity. They never let their real selves out enough to stamp their identifying mark in the material world in which they live. The environment molds the individual to its own monotonous pattern instead of the individual carving his unique destiny out of the environment, and whenever that happens the result is invariably mediocrity. Strength, poise, and power measure their degree by the extent to which personality strikes an even balance with the individuality it represents. You are the fulcrum across which the law of cause and effect must work. Until individuality transfers itself past the pivotal point into equally weighty expression, you do not secure that equilibrium so vital for effective exertion of your powers and faculties. Therefore, your interest is to see that the transfer does take place completely and that the proper balance is established. In promoting this adjustment, your attention and conscious efforts are necessarily focused upon the effect side of the equation. The cause itself, your individuality, is utterly beyond your reach to modify in any way. From the beginning it has been nothing less than perfect and harmonious. It sets a standard which its expression as personality has failed to maintain. But personality, the outward manifestation where the lapse occurs, is within your reach and subject to your manipulation. There you can eliminate the disharmony that has crept in, emphasize and draw out the qualities that have been shut back, remodel, develop, adapt and bring up to the particular standard existing for it in its source, the whole top-heavy structure. In this process you start, so to say, at the bottom and work upward. Your personality asserts itself through the three planes of your being, the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. As the physical plane is the very foundation of your human existence, the one into whose terms the activities of the other two must be fused for ultimate expression, that is where your work of reconstruction must start. In proportion as you make your material surroundings receive the stamp of your individuality, manifesting the basic harmony within your real self, you eliminate the flaws and distortions in your apparent self, or personality, which stands between. Your inner harmony, in flowing out, will touch first its nearest environment. Therefore, it is in your physical appearance and your home that your start should be made. Even the way you dress yourself, though it seems to be a trivial detail in comparison with the greater object in view, is in reality a quite effective barometer of your whole progress. There is nothing in the exterior world of matter nearer to you than your own clothes. They enwrap the focal center from which the harmonizing influence spreads outward, like ripples from a stone dropped in a placid pool. So in the taste manifested in their selection and arrangement, your inner sense of harmony first breaks into evidence. Through them it widens swiftly into the home and beyond, until eventually it laps the far shores of your material existence and activities. The richness or poverty of the surroundings on which you are to impress your individuality is of no consequence. Material elements have a limited secondary value proportioned to their rarity, but their primary worth is borrowed from what they wear of one's soul qualities. A simple plate of copper etched by the master hand of Benvenuto Cellini to the lines of one of his concepts will fetch thousands of times its weight in gold, while the value of a golden plaque wrought by the hand of an uninspired artist does not stir above the market price of the metal. The loveliest fabrics can appear cheap and tawdry under the handling of a cheap character. The poorest stuff can mirror the nobility of the nature it adorns. Similarly, with every material foil which challenges the exercise of your qualities, it bears thereafter the stamp of greater or less worth which you imparted to it through the seal of your personality. Once you begin to harmonize your direct environment, you feel impelled to modify your personal attitude and conduct to suit it. The visible outward improvement reacts as a stimulus on the other planes of your being, a backsurge spilling over into your manners and ways of dealing with people and inaugurating the second step in your development. In these more subtle channels of expression also it must be borne in mind that personality is simply an agent to carry your individuality out into evidence. It cannot do this by merely conforming to cut-and-dried rules of behavior. It must fit etiquette to you and not you to etiquette. Strength of character, naturally and harmoniously asserted, is the formula for true gentility, which can never be acquired by pruning away your distinctive qualities to the plan of an established and conventional pattern. A strong, well-balanced individual, though ignorant of accepted forms, will instinctively do the right thing at the right time. Such a one is what the world calls a born gentleman, gentle in his ways, yet invincibly firm and direct in nature. Many people, misunderstanding what strength really is, imagine that rough, domineering manners are the sum and substance of a strong personality. They try to assume the appearance of what they feel emanating from those who are genuinely superior to them, to put on a big front, as it is aptly termed, with nothing solid back of it. This tendency crops out particularly in the younger generation, school and college boys diligently shedding the pleasant manners learned at home in favor of a swearing, bullying demeanor which they naively associate with manhood. While such an attitude may impress the gullible for the moment, it is a broken reed in time of stress. There is no sound core of true qualities within that puff pretense of a personality, and at the first test of circumstances it collapses abjectly. Simplicity, courtesy, and sincerity are the fundamentals of attractive contacts with other people. They are what carry conviction and inspire liking. Be yourself is an axiom to be followed rigorously in all circumstances, because it is only through letting your own real inner self emerge as it is that you can act in accordance with these three essentials. The more you diverge from your individuality in the personality you present to the world, the more you defer to outward forms at the sacrifice of your intrinsic qualities, the farther you slip from the object to which you aspire. Genuine manliness is based, not on weaknesses, fear, and shortcomings, but on true qualities alone. Women, urging toward equality of rights with men on the great wave of modern feminism, often fall victim to the same dismal error of imitating men's shortcomings instead of taking example from their strength of positive qualities. Faults always stand out strikingly by contrast, like the one discordant note in a powerful symphony, but theirs is a shameful prominence to be shunned and not copied. Profanity, brutality, or any sort of vulgar conduct never helped make a man, it unmakes them. Distinction mounts only on positive attributes of character. Notoriety is simply the advertisement of weaknesses. One cannot substitute for the other, and while women can command equal recognition on either score by equally asserting it, they can win their goal only by intelligent emphasis of the constructive side. The qualities that men can contribute to the complementary sex are the aggressive ones such as energy, courage, reason, initiative, sense of responsibilities, self-control, generosity, and wisdom. These are what cluster dominantly under the heading of male gender, and they point very clearly the road of development up which women must climb to equality with men. Men, on the other hand, if they do not want to be completely outstripped by women, must cultivate within themselves those qualities which women have preeminently and which in men are usually left undeveloped. These are of the passive and receptive nature typical of the female gender, such as love, patience, gentleness, sympathy, forgiveness, intuition, refinement, sense of beauty, love of music, arts, etc. At present, neither men nor women are complete personalities. Each sex borrows its identity from a lack which the other supplies, and each requires the other for its completion. In proportion as both develop that completion out of themselves instead of looking to the other for it, they acquire the true self-reliance and independence which is their common aim. That is why men must be alert to take from the female exchequer of qualities the equivalent of what women are taking from their own, or else be content to see women rise superior to them by reason of more complete development. Frequently men profess to abhor the idea of cultivating any of those refining qualities, lest it render them liable to the stigma of effeminacy. This attitude, if genuine, is a deplorable weakness, compounded in about equal portions of fear of criticism and a perhaps well-founded mistrust of that manhood whose integrity they are so jealous to preserve. If it is simply a habit caught from associates, it is a no less deplorable mistake. Real strength of character is tempered, not corrupted, by refinement. The contribution from the female catalog of qualities is essential in bringing out the full richness of the male side. This fact finds its recognition and proof in the term selected to define the ideal of thorough manliness, gentleman. Aside from shaping your personality consciously and intelligently, as described above, there is another aspect of even more vital importance to be considered, the composition. Just as a builder must take care that his materials, mortar, steel, cement, etc., are of the best, as well as see that they are laid according to the plan of the architect, so you, in reconstructing the home of your individuality, must strain out of the stuff and fabric with which you work the impurities latent there. You must not only correct the structural flaws which your laxity has allowed to break out in your existing personality, but you must purge the texture itself clean of the dry dust of evil left there by an endless sequence of personalities from which it was derived. Remember that although you have but one individuality, a single living thread of the eternal fire, the number of personalities through which it has pulsed and ebbed in its evolutionary progress up the ages is legion. In each of the successive incarnations on which you climb to your present stage of development, you wore a personality more or less appropriate to the respective stages through which you passed, just as you might wear a suit of clothes. But unlike clothes, each successive personality is erected out of the stuff of its predecessor, and each partakes also of that one vast composite personality of the whole of humanity of which it is an integral part. In this lies the explanation of so-called heredity and the complex influences of your environment. There is thus the accumulated product of the past both within you and outside of you, comprising the substance from which you are to fashion your present personality. It mingles the good with the bad, the sound with the dry rot, and confronts you with the problem of doing the best you can under the circumstances to eliminate the undesirable and accentuate the positive qualities, in order to make your personality as perfect as possible. This is not an easy task. It is beyond your own limited human power to accomplish it, yet the whole tide of laws and forces of nature sets in your favor and places at your disposal the means by which it can be done. In nature, the trend of all things is perpetually upward, from the existing condition into a better one and never from the better down into a worse. Evolution, or the law of eternal progress, is the fundamental moving principle which floods into expression through every aspect of all being, manifesting on the small scale through the individual as well as on the larger scale through the whole of the race. Therefore, personality tends naturally to improve as individuality, in its successive incarnations, unfolds more and more. That improvement, however, can be very gradual and tedious, so slow that the amount of it in one ordinary lifetime is scarcely perceptible, or it can be very vigorous and rapid. If personality is permitted merely to be dragged upward by the rising level of general progress, responding only to the prod of hard experience, its advance will be at a correspondingly minute rate. But if it is given consciously the stimulus by which that improvement can be accelerated, the process of eliminating the negative and emphasizing the positive elements in it will jump quickly and energetically forward. It is in this basic respect that universal life energy becomes of invaluable assistance. That force, the pure essence of the positive, will reach the substance itself where you consciously are able to mold the form alone. However symmetrical and well-proportioned may be the edifice you erect, it needs to be built of sound material if it is to stand without crumbling in the face of adverse circumstances. Temper those materials in the cleansing fire of life force, so that the impurities are burned out and the good qualities enhanced, and the temple you raise from them will endure and gather strength throughout the entire course of its existence. With this in mind, make it a practice to use universal life energy constantly in every activity and undertaking of your daily life. Let it serve as the direct connecting ray between the object to be achieved and your individuality, the vital current through which your real reactions are stamped indelibly into your environment without being warped and blunted by the intervening barrier of a wrong personality. In that way you will bring your individuality into forceful and accurate expression, knitting its harmonious impulses unchanged into an equally firm and vigorous personality. A well-balanced personality is primarily distinguished by four striking features. It is strong, intelligent, sincere, and pleasant. In other words, it manifests dominantly the four aspects of universal life energy: life, mind, truth, and love. The more consistently and energetically you assert those four qualities in each act of yours, the more you adjust every phase of your mental and physical existence to the standard they imply. Then the more perfectly you develop and stabilize the character behind those acts. Complete harmony and equilibrium are intrinsic in the individuality from which your conscious human life is derived, because it is one with universal life energy. Complete harmony should and can be maintained in the expression of that individuality. Invest every act deliberately with the same perfection inherent in its source, and you will automatically consume the negative taint in the personality between. Of the four essential attributes which personality must possess, the greatest is its power of attraction. That is what draws things and people within the scope of the other three, and affords them the opportunity to exert themselves. This power of attraction is in direct proportion to the amount of universal life energy you are able to absorb and store within you. Like a magnet whose pull becomes more irresistible and far-reaching in exact ratio to the electricity poured into it, so your varied qualities of body, mind, and soul flush into more and more lustrous expression on the quickening surge of that force through them. It is what lies behind the whole intricate assortment of human machinery and makes it work and live. Many personalities otherwise well equipped to serve their purpose admirably fail to impress simply because they lack this vital animating power. Often you have come in contact with people of mildly pleasing presence whose memory vanished gently with their faces at the end of a casual conversation. They die across the field of your experience as charmingly as a cloud reflection in a quiet pool, and as completely. The world is sown with intellectual specters, also, whose mental agility and attainments are the marvel of all who behold, until some more substantial interruption like lunch switch their attention into a really serious channel. Such personalities are like perfect brands carved on cold iron, an intricate and richly wrought pattern which needs only fire to stamp its impress indelibly into its environment. Remember, all mental laws and forces function only as the physical stream of life energy turns the wheels. That is the central river of power from which each mental mill must scoop its driving impulse, and if the current is weak, all the multitudinous activities dependent on it will be weak also. First, take care of your source of power. Once that is assured, you will find little difficulty in adapting the machinery to get the most use of it. Success in your life race and in the life race of everyone spells its secret in the word strength. The whole purpose of human existence is to overcome, no matter what your occupation, no matter in what direction you turn your endeavors, the same problem presents itself to you, obstacles to be conquered by the exertion of your qualities. The one who is able to exert those qualities most strongly, who is able to call into play an extra margin of power over all the rest, is the one who forges into the lead and wins. As long as mankind continues to be born to this earth, there will always be competition, those who win and those who lose, because there will never be a time when the law of evolution ceases to function through humanity just as through everything else in nature. Even now, slow as that unfoldment is within the narrow limits of our concept of time, its progress is measurable and can be proved beyond any question of doubt. Modern statistics disprove with cold figures any argument to the contrary, showing that the human race as a whole is markedly taller, stronger, and more intelligent than it has ever been before. In the centuries to come, an even wider gap will open up between what is now and what will then be. The weak and unfit will ever be ground into discard, a pathetic lower fringe of failures dropped unregarded out of the fierce struggle for existence, dross burned away in the incandescent heat of that battle in which they are no longer qualified to partake. Nations will rise and fall, people sweep forward to set new tide marks for a succeeding wave to overlap, individuals tower to brief prominence and subside in the dust of years. And throughout the whole titanic combat, the enfeebling elements will be gradually expelled to leave a stronger, finer, purer race behind. Yet this process does not mean that those who have been eliminated are doomed to wear their failure throughout eternity, a theory once widely advertised in the conventional concept of hell. In nature there can be no stagnation, no permanent retrogression. Every individual, however evil, weak and perverse, is compelled by the law of evolution working through him to sweat painfully out his composition, the poison of negative in which it is steeped. Therefore the one brief span from birth to death, though it looms so big in our tiny vision, is in reality but one small step in a very long and involved refining process, a single stage in an interminable sequence. Death is simply the introduction to a fresh start in life, the shedding of an old burden of disharmonies, imperfections, and wrongs in order to enter anew, free from handicaps, into the arena of mortal existence. We are born again and again, reincarnated each time, usually under better conditions, with our own strength of positive qualities a little greater and our load of negative correspondingly less. As the whole of humanity improves, so do the circumstances into which we are born also improve, opening to us in the successive grades of our schooling here wider opportunities and revealing loftier goals for which to strive. We are taught piecemeal, a bit at a time, what is too vast to be gulped down in a single lesson. Most people, not realizing this, believe that they live only once on earth and that their whole fate hereafter is spun inexorably out of the thin threads of the years here. Consequently, they see in the natural process of evolution a remorseless, crushing force, a merciless tyrant holding up to them one chance alone to achieve the heights and ruthlessly stamping out once and forever the multitude who fail. This is an appalling mistake. Life is simply one school session in the uncounted ages of a complete education. Today a single task has been allotted, a single lesson to be learned, and between the dawn and dark of your human consciousness you will add the crumb of knowledge it contains to the store of your evolutionary experience. Tomorrow another task awaits you, a different problem challenging your further advance and demanding the exercise of what you learned yesterday for its solution. But meantime evening entices to rest, and like a child returning home from school the individual steps out of the classroom of his physical body, away from the atmosphere of the day's responsibilities and mistakes, and passes through the gates of death into the realm of the invisible. There he remains for a recess of longer or shorter duration, gathering fresh forces against the morrow when he will be incarnated again, but with a different personality, a fund of experience richer by the measure of what he has learned before, and with correspondingly greater opportunities and tasks confronting him in this new day of his human career. As it was explained in the first lesson, every human being is born with the power to win, to succeed. All the elements of success are latent there, waiting only to be developed into expression. Some may avail themselves of those possibilities within, some may not. Eventually they will have to do so, but if they neglect now to realize on the hoarded powers seeking expression through them, theirs is the fault and blame. They deliberately defer the end by refusing to bring forth the means when by applying themselves intelligently and wholeheartedly to it, they could develop out of the core of their being that which outlasts 1,000 deaths and attracts automatically from without the things that make life worth living. The ultimate end towards which evolution tends is perfect equality, through the elimination of that personality in whose differences inequality resides. Fundamentally, all human beings are equal and perfect, but no two personalities transmit that basic perfection into a like degree of expression. Only as the flaws and imperfections existing in personality are removed and it is made to coincide exactly with the individuality behind it will it vanish and take distinctions with it. That revision is your particular and specific problem, your contribution to the achievement of absolute equality among men. When all have first individualized themselves, then will emerge that individualization of the masses referred to in the previous lesson, the condition in which all attain an equal eminence of freedom, strength and poise in the assertion of their respective arrays of qualities. That state is yet an ideal on the remote horizon of our evolution, a far goal toward which humanity is streaming blindly by many and devious paths. In the van, now some and now others forge into the lead. Behind, the same fierce competition boils and seethes throughout the following masses. The traveled course is strewn with those who have fallen by the way. Always there is leadership on the part of a few, rivalry among the many and strife between all, yet all converging towards one common distant end, the equality of perfection, the only equality there is. Understanding this, you will understand clearly the true nature of leadership and its relation to your own personality. For the time, personality is the indispensable instrument through which your individuality must express. Yet it exists as a personality by reason of the flaws and imperfections which distort and corrupt that expression. In proportion as you eliminate those flaws from it, so that it reveals ever more accurately the real self within, you rise from the gray level of mediocrity into the prominence of success. To lead, therefore, does not mean primarily to dominate others. It means to improve yourself, to advance at a faster pace than others in the development of your own qualities. In so doing, you will naturally draw ahead of the others and also draw them after you, helping and benefiting them, but you will never feel the impulse to misdirect your superior strength of qualities to their abuse. You will be too concerned with attuning yourself still further to the law of evolution on whose current you have attained your present elevation to waste your energies in a baser fashion. In its final analysis, leadership is simply the inevitable product of growth. As your positive qualities fight free of the vicious negative passions which choke them, you are lifted into the open sunshine of the success which breeds success. You no longer look with envy or jealousy at those above you. Their superiority becomes an inspiration and an example, a visible proof of what awaits you when you develop the strength to grasp it, but it does not arouse resentment and anger. You realize that you must grow to fit the position to which you aspire, both in vigor of personality and unfoldment of individuality, instead of hoping vainly to make the position fit you without shrinking fr6m its present proportions. No one can ever become a leader without paying the price for it. Only when you learn to obey wholeheartedly the instructions of those bigger in character than you, without malice, jealousy, or false pride, will you qualify to lead in your turn. Only as you absorb experience from above can you put it into practice in a widening sphere below you. Only as you exercise your inner powers to a greater strength through matching them with the more powerful can you rise to a loftier height above the less capable ones around you and pull them upward also. But you must first recognize and face frankly the fact that your progress can be bought only by a corresponding burden of responsibilities, a weight which increases with each forward step and exacts from you full recompense for your advance beyond the supporting level of the crowd. Unless you are willing to assume that burden and pay the price, it is better to give up any idea of becoming a leader and thus avoid certain disappointment of your hopes. But if you honestly desire to be among those whose heads are rising above the rest of humanity, if you are ready to trade the sweat of your brain and heart and body for the glory that only real achievement brings, you have at your disposal the power to drive you on to victory over every obstacle that may bar your path. Universal life energy. Exercises. Continue to practice as usual the star exercise morning and evening, relaxation, silence, and the continual contact with universal life energy. Then to the sum of those specific exercises for which the above are the foundation, add the new exercise for this week, called magnetization. The purpose of magnetization is to attract, by the exertion through your intrinsic qualities of a sufficient force, the elements for their material expression and realization. It is accomplished by pouring through your physical and mental channels a constantly increasing flood of universal life energy, to flush forth in an ever more powerful radiation that contacts and draws within your reach from outside whatever is needed to embody in fact your ambitions and desires. For the performance of magnetization, proceed as follows: relax, enter into silence, and make the mental contact with universal life energy. When you feel the force flowing, stand and extend your two hands straight forward in front of you, in a position of blessing, with the palms downward. In effect, you are genuinely blessing the world during this time, because the physical stream of universal life energy soaking in through every cell and nerve of your body is concentrated into a real river of power sent out from your hands into space. That constructive and animating force not only benefits with its stimulating touch the entire world, to whose limits the vibrations instantly penetrate, but it establishes also the physical connection you desired between your immaterial concepts and the corresponding material means for their realization. It gives first, richly and abundantly, and in the giving puts into operation the machinery of an inevitable equivalent return. This machinery is the law of compensation, which determines that in proportion as you give out of yourself into the general pool of all wealth or achievement, that wealth spills back on you in the specific form required by your qualities for their materialization. You become a nucleus of magnetic force, a center of increasing attraction from which, through the channels of all your varied positive traits and talents, a stronger and stronger current pours out to set up an equally strong flow in return. In the stream of that returning flow of power, naturally, are carried to you the things you desire, the opportunities you need, the contacts with people which will open the way for you to your goal. Your attitude during the performance of that exercise of magnetization should be one of serene and impersonal love. Be glad to give the world your surplus of vitality. Let the warm glow of that giving steal expansively through your whole being. Simply feel happy, harmonious, poised. The more you are able to invite further relaxation in this way, the wider you will open within yourself the channels for the flow of universal life energy, and the finer will be the tinge of your own self which you impart to the outgoing current. This, because of the higher rate of vibration with which you thus invest it, will in response attract to you from without the best and finest also. Do not try to localize the power of attraction you generate during that magnetization to any single or particular object you wish to achieve. By limiting it to a specific thing, you limit it also in its strength and effectiveness. When properly developed, it will attract anything and anybody with whom you come in contact. But just as one light needs the supporting radiance of many candle power to make it brilliant, so one application of magnetic force needs the support of its own strength in every direction to make it in the highest degree efficient. Magnetization should last only for from 5 to 10 minutes each time it is practiced. Physical or mental effort of any sort must be avoided, as the keynote of the exercise is thorough relaxation of the sort derived from complete poise. If your hands and arms feel tired in the beginning, do not try to keep them up, but drop them and raise them again when rested. As practice accustoms you to the position, all fatigue will vanish and you will develop gradually the requisite ease and strength which it must be your aim to achieve. Questions and answers to Lesson 22. 1. What is personality? Personality is the manner in which you display to others the qualities comprising your individuality. 2. How is personality related to individuality? The relation of personality to individuality is the relation of an effect to its direct cause. 3. What practical results are obtained by adapting personality to individuality? The practical results obtained by adapting personality to individuality are emergence into actual expression of that individuality, with corresponding development of strength, poise, and power. 4. Where should this readjustment start? This readjustment should start on the physical plane, into whose terms all human activities must ultimately be fused for expression, and first of all on your nearest material environment, your physical appearance and your home. 5. What relative importance do material surroundings bear to this process? Material surroundings are important in this process, simply as foils to exercise and draw forth your inner harmony of qualities, and not for any poverty or worth attached to the material elements themselves. 6. What are the distinctive attributes of a real gentleman? The distinctive attributes of a real gentleman are strength of qualities, gently but firmly expressed through their own natural channels of simplicity, courtesy, and sincerity. 7. What qualities must women develop in order to attain equality with men? The qualities which women must develop in order to attain equality with men are the aggressive qualities of the male gender, such as energy, courage, reason, initiative, self-control, generosity, wisdom, and sense of responsibilities. 8. What qualities must be cultivated by men in order not to be outstripped by women? The qualities that men must cultivate in order to maintain an equal footing with women are the receptive qualities of the female gender, such as love, patience, gentleness, sympathy, forgiveness, intuition, sense of beauty, refinement, etc. 9. In what vitally important respect does the use of universal life energy help reconstruct your personality? The vitally important respect in which universal life energy helps to reconstruct your personality is in eliminating the negative inherent in the composition of your personality, deposited there from the preceding incarnations of your individuality. 10. What are the distinguishing features of a well-balanced personality? The distinguishing features of a well-balanced personality are strength, intelligence, sincerity, and pleasantness, representing the four primary aspects of universal life energy: life, mind, truth, and love. 11. To what single vital fundamental do all the varied activities of human life finally reduce? The single fundamental to which all the varied activities of human life reduce in the final analysis is the power of life itself, or universal life energy. 12. Define leadership in its relation to the law of evolution and ultimate end toward which it tends. Leadership is the natural result of a stronger and quicker unfoldment of qualities on the part of some, which carries them forward ahead of the rest on the spiral course of evolution. Once this perfection is achieved by all, personality with its imperfections will be eliminated and the absolute equality which resides in individuality alone will prevail.